And welcome to everybody. We'll start with the roll call. Suzanne?
Thank you. Mayor Levy.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Harvey.
Here.
Councilmember Carr.
Here.
Councilmember Matthews.
Here.
Councilmember Saunier.
Here.
Councilmember Sawyer.
Here.
Councilmember Schaefer.
Here.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. Lots of energy tonight. If all will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, agenda item number 3. We have a number of ceremonies and presentations tonight, and we'll start with our chief. Chief Young, how are you?
Great, thank you, Mayor. It's my pleasure tonight to recognize 3 of our very own citizens that helped out our police officers a few weeks ago. I've only got the privilege to recognize folks one time in my tenure as chief, and this is a very special time to just recognize some of the wonderful people that we have. We had 3 citizens that stepped up and helped us when we had a person we had to deal with at one of our local businesses, the library. It was March 16th, 2017. Woodland Park police officers responded to a disturbance at the library. There was a suspicious person that was causing some concern, and so we decided we'd go over there and help them out with that person. As things started to unwind, it ended up taking 5 people, everything that they had, to be able to take this person and take control of them and safely take them out of the library. And it was only with 2 officers and 3 citizens that this was able to be done. This is a very strong young man who had a lot of issues, and fortunately we were able to take him into custody without injury. So tonight I'm here to recognize 3 people. I know one person was not able to be here, but if I could see if Jenny Dara and Michael Tanner could come up, that would be great. The 3rd person is Robert Lovejoy. He was not able to make it, is my understanding. So Jenny, I think I'm just going to read this off for you, okay? I've got Commander Jim Halloran with me. He's going to step up next to you, and we're going to present this Citizen Award of Appreciation to you. So on March 16th, 2017, while at the Rampart Regional Library in Woodland Park, Colorado, you assisted 2 officers that were attempting to arrest and control an individual. This individual was fighting with officers and had attempted to take their weapons away from both of the officers. It took you, as well as the officers, and 2 other bystanders to make sure that nobody was hurt or injured during this incident. The entire Woodland Park Police Department and I are grateful for your unselfish actions to render this outstanding service to the police department and the city of Woodland Park, our community. Tanner, is that you?
Yes, sir.
Outstanding. Not a problem. That's perfectly understandable. I really appreciate you showing up. Let me present these to you.
Thank you. I was one of the officers, by the way.
You know, Chief said it well. This is the mayor's pin. The mayor's pin is made for people like Tanner and Jen. And so if we're going above and beyond on behalf of city council or entire community, certainly the police chief, certainly your pal in crime here, we want to present you with the mayor's award, and thank you so much for all you do. You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, where else do you start a meeting like that? It's pretty good. Okay, we'll move on to 3B, Pat Hyslop in the Bear Aware presentation.
First, I'd like to take this opportunity to announce that we did, after some soul searching, decide that we would cancel the May 20th cleanup, citywide cleanup, because we feel like even if the weather doesn't snow tomorrow, we'd still be in the cold and the wet and the mud trying to clean up the heavy, wet trash. So we've decided to move it to June 17th. We do hope still that all of you all will be able to join us to help clean up the city. And now, I'm going to move on to our Bear Aware program. One of the things I love about living in Woodland Park is all the wildlife that is around. I live over on Sunny Glen, and I've seen bears and mountain lions and coyotes and bobcats and foxes, and that's just amazing to me. It's wonderful. So that's why I really do have a heart in this Bear Aware program. The Keep Woodland Park Beautiful Bear Aware program was inspired by a local high school student's school project in 2012. She made a connection between trash and bears. In 2013, Keep Woodland Park Beautiful and the wildlife officer of Teller County, Tanya Sharp, teamed together to create Bear Aware. The goal is to protect our local bears and to reduce the litter caused when they get into our trash. In other words, reduce negative human-bear encounters in our community and reduction of consequential litter. After a Bear Aware workshop for community members and a Bear Aware program where students were taught bear awareness tips and then asked to submit a drawing that best portrayed a bear awareness tip they learned for a contest at Gateway Elementary School in 2013 and then at Columbine Elementary in 2014, the bear calls to the district wildlife officer went from 50 calls to 19 calls in 2014. The number of reports of bears and trash to the Woodland Park Code enforcement officials went from 15 in 2013 to 6 in 2014. So the program works. This year, on March 17th, we presented our program at Columbine Elementary with the help of the art teacher, Emily Warner. Tim Craning from the Division of Wildlife and his Bear Aware volunteers gave their presentation, and we later collected the students' 2nd through 5th grade entries. Tonight, we would like your help in honoring our grade winners. If I could have Bella Thessing please come up, and you stand right over here, please. Angel Gomez. We weren't sure she could make it. Elena Groves, or Alana. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. I apologize. Alana, I'm sorry. And you can stand right over here. And then Hannah Espinoza. Did we get Hannah? Well, that's what happens when we get springtime snow in Woodland Park. Well, we got you too, and we're glad to have you. And now if I could have the mayor. I don't know if you want to come down too. And then we are going to now present your certificates. And also after tonight, their pictures, which are posted over there, will be put up in the public library for 2 weeks for everybody to enjoy. All right, so we will start with our 2nd grade winner, right? I have you here, Bella, right? Okay, sorry. All right, so Bella Thessing, we'd like to award you 1st place in the contest for the Bear Aware. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Okay, we'll move on to our Main Street vision statement. And Darlene Jensen, where is Darlish? Is okay, good. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi.
Just give us your name and home resident address and go from there.
I'll do that. Good evening, Mayor, council members, staff, members of the public. My name is Cheryl Trent, 2874 Blue Leaf Drive in Fort Collins. And I did not drive from Fort Collins, I drove from Ridgeway, which was equally fun today. And I'm just gonna point out, I dressed for the weather. It was just somebody else's weather, not our weather. So I understand we have some limited time tonight, so I'm gonna go really quickly, but I know Darlene and the Main Street Board would be happy to answer any questions. And just for a second, all the Main Street Board members out there, if you'd raise your hand for me, just say hi. Yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure. I was hired by DOLA, the Department of Local Affairs with the state, that manages the Main Street program. So my services were completely paid for by DOLA, and it's one of the benefits, I hope it's a benefit, that you get as being a member of Main Street. And one of the requirements in the Main Street program is they want to see some forward progress. They have 4 levels in the Main Street program. And in order to reach the next level, one of the things that your Main Street needed to do was to have a vision statement. And your board on the Main Street was very clear they wanted it to be community-based. And as a result, what we did was I made 15 individual phone interviews. We did 2 community meetings with about 100 attendees, and many of you, including the mayor, were at those meetings. We did a survey that had over 230 of your community members respond to it. And then we also had an open house. And in between all of that, we did Facebook posts, and we did some outreach in the media. So I think we had a really great amount of feedback from your community to build the vision statement. And it's in front of you. You have it in your packets. And I would just like to take a moment and read it out loud and then just mention a few of the key points. We do have a PowerPoint, but I am technologically illiterate and I'm not entirely sure how to bring it up. Yeah, that would be awesome. The PowerPoint is just a series of those photos that we showed at some of the open houses that would be helpful. Oh, you know what? I could use like the mouse and click on the PowerPoint, right?
Top right, thank you.
You know, I'm a professional facilitator. We don't do anything with like high technology. Lovely, thank you. That might actually. Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to scroll through the pictures. I won't take much time to do it. On the back is the same map. It's the boundaries of your Main Street program. And on the front, it lists the vision that your board adopted. It says downtown Woodland Park is a vibrant artistic center of the community where all generations gather, walk, play, shop, dine, and live in a historic and majestic mountain western setting. And then the tagline, near nature, near perfect. And all of these words came out through the visioning statement. And during those open houses and those community meetings, we also had a chance to talk about what you as a city council and what the Main Street Board have been working on. The crosswalks that you've been working on, the pedestrian safety, all of the alley and the walkway work that you've been doing, the enhancement of the storefronts, everything that your team has been working together to do to make the downtown historic part of Woodland Park so attractive. Now keep in mind a vision statement is this perfect image of the future. It might not be what's there today, but it's our goal to continue to work through that. And part of the work we did, required by DOLA, they call it a transformation strategy, which kind of makes my eyes cross. So your board decided to call them goals, which I appreciate very much. It's easier to understand. And a lot of it was about this pedestrian safety and walkability, and you know that there was a walkability plan that had been talked about. It was about being family friendly, and it was also to move to the next level of Main Street. Because with this adoption of the vision, the strategies, and some of the work, they are now capable of moving on to what's known as a designated Main Street community, which opens the doors to more funding. So when I'm asked what the next steps are, I will often say the next steps are probably a full strategic plan for your Main Street, a continuation of some of your design elements, especially around the Mountain Western theme. And we know that as far back as the 80s and early 90s, the word Mountain Western has showed up in your official city documents, in your comprehensive planning, in your downtown plan from 1991. So part of what we did is we wanted to ask the question of what Mountain Western meant. These are just some of the photos that we showed, and there were some very distinct reactions. As you can imagine, everybody has a different reaction. I love that, I hate that, it's not ADA accessible. I'm not pointing my finger at Sally when I say that, but you've got some really sharp staff who catch things like this. So we're not quite sure what Mountain Western actually looks like yet or what that might mean, but I do know your Main Street Board is very interested in continuing that conversation. So that is the super short, very quick version. I would say that I've encouraged your Main Street Board to continue this community dialogue. You have, and we just saw it. I mean, it's a hard act to follow heroes and grade schoolers, but that's what this community has really shown to me, is that you have a lot of really engaged community members who really want to be a part of what's going on. And as a result of that, you end up with things like the pictures I'm showing you now, Antler Alley, the square, the mural, all of those amazing things that you've been able to accomplish. And I think if you continue that, And ask DOLA, which they will be happy to continue to help fund your technical advisors. They call us the technical advisory team. I would love to come back and work with you, and I know all of the other consultants on board would love to do that too. Happy to answer any questions from anybody, or if there's anything I missed. I know, Debbie, the chamber was a part of this process, and of course your economic development, Jane was, Sally was there. We had a lot of people help out, so be happy to answer any questions.
Council? Cheryl, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
We've been talking for a long time, envisioning for a while. This is something a little bit different. How are we doing? You see a lot of towns like us and work with them. Is there something that we should know about that we can help with to just maybe expedite the process a little? I'm not looking to do anything quickly. We want to do it the right way, but how can we do better?
Oh, that's an awesome question. Thank you for asking it. One of the things that I think is critical is to keep this really good relationship that the town has with Main Street. And by that I mean not just a communication relationship, but you guys are strong financial supporters of Main Street, and that's critical to their long-term success. There's no question. So continuing that, and taking a look at these sorts of efforts, and as most of you were able to come to those meetings or take those surveys, and you have a member of your council on the board as well, and he was really helpful. He's got a word in here. That's his word. Majestic is his word. And so having that open dialogue, it will be critical. But what I see is a city and a Main Street that are making some amazing steps forward. And you have a big struggle, and that's Highway 24. There's no question. But there are some things that you can work together to do. And I think it's just going to take the community continuing to have that dialogue. But that's what I see. You guys are doing an amazing job. Just some really great and very forward-thinking, very progressive, visionary things happening here, which is really fun to work with. Thank you.
Well, thanks for all your help, Cheryl.
You're welcome. You guys have a great night.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 3D, and Karen Svedich Casey is here. Hi, Karen.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Thanks for allowing us an opportunity to come before you and give you an update. My address, 220 West South Avenue, Woodland Park. So our Teen Advisory Board, at least some members of our Teen Advisory Board are here to give you an update. A couple of years ago, the board was renewed, and thanks to a lot of hard work and support from the Teen Center staff, Mary Lee Allen and Candy McDaniel, and of course our volunteer who got an award for supporting our teens, Mike McDaniel too. Right now they're transitioning and creating a new leadership that's planning for the next year. And so they would like to share what they've done this spring and their vision for moving forward. I'd like to introduce Abby Woods, who's the new TAB chairperson, and she's going to introduce the rest of the board. Abby?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm here with a selection of our TAB group that could make it tonight, including Ashley and Alyssa, who will be speaking with me. We wanted to come here and present what we value as a group and where we see ourselves in the future. So on April 21st of this year, our group met and went to Aspen Valley Ranch, where we spent an afternoon together planning our coming months and what we wanted to work on as a group. What we found there was that we have 3 priority areas, which are community, teen center, and kids and peers. We started off having lunch together and then dove into working by discovering our sparks, which are things that we individually find inspiring and inspire us to make the world better. So then we took that and went into what we wanted to do as a group. So Ashley is going to talk about community.
Hi. What the Teen Center would like to achieve within this next year in the community we would like to have an introduction to government and professional jobs. We would like to keep up on current events within and outside Woodland Park. We'd like to serve our little community and be a part of something bigger. We want to show our community how really great our kids are and that they can really make a difference. And we want to show that everyone can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Alyssa talking about the Teen Center.
What we would like to achieve for the Teen Center is to develop skills for the future for our kids and to make sure the Teen Center is running well and to build relationships within the teens that go to the Teen Center. And we would like to help the Teen Center grow because it's an amazing place for kids to go. We would like the TAB and Teen Center youth as faces of the community to make the teen population more noticeable, and we can show that anyone can make a difference.
Thank you, Alyssa. Now I will be talking about, excuse me, our community, or kids and peers, sorry. So for kids and peers, we like to learn about other kids' needs and likes in the community, help kids find engaging things to be involved with, which they can enjoy, help other kids to succeed, advise and mentor kids with good manners, good choices, etc., help other teens be more social and interactive in the community, and show that anyone can make a difference. Now we have open time for questions if anyone has any.
Council?
I truly enjoyed the message and what you're striving to do. I find it very encouraging to keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ken.
Well, this is a topic that's come up a lot, and I just wonder your folks' view on it and how you, in getting interactive and getting a lot of the things you've described here, how do you balance that with the extreme pressure of everybody being on their cell phones or on their laptops and all that, dragging them away from that? I mean, there's got to be a balance there. Do you guys discuss that at all? Is that part of the discussion?
A little bit. Within our own group, we have to get off our cell phones and things to work within the community and do the events we do, and just encourage other people to see another part of the world. But we also use technology sometimes within our group to help enhance that, but also get away from it sometimes.
Good, thank you.
Go ahead, Bill.
First of all, Abby is our young ambassador to keep them apart beautiful. Just got to throw that in there. But I have two things. I would like to ask you, the teens, what would you like our town to be like? We're talking about our visioning statements and stuff. What can we do to make this a better town for the young people? Get back to me.
Okay.
But seriously, we'd like to know.
Yeah.
We'd like your input. And secondly, I'm also a member of Kiwanis. And if you do come up with a project that you like, we're about helping kids in our community. So we please ask that submit if you have any kind of needs to Kiwanis so maybe we can help you out.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Now, you mentioned at one point, I forgot what category, about government and learning more about government. I think I can speak for the entire council and certainly the city manager and his staff. If you need anything in that regard, please let us know. I know the mayor, Steve Randolph, a couple of mayors ago, had a mayor's council for kids and did some things kind of above and beyond like you're doing. And so think about that and think about how maybe we can help, because there's some great resources at this podium and in the entire community. But government-wise, we're here to help if you could. The other thing I'd like, as I see Karen listening to the presentation, watching the presentation with a big smile on her face, and Mike and Candy and Mary Lee too, you are special. the first thing I would do is go home and thank your parents, because they've raised you just the way you're supposed to be raised. And the leadership that you're providing is really, really special. So know that. Try to include as many kids as you can. I wouldn't even call you kids. You're young adults. The way you present and the way you speak tonight is outstanding. So I want to give you a mayor's pin for sure, and because there might be some other questions, but just outstanding job. Really, really good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's really an honor to be able to speak here tonight and show you guys what we do. Thank you.
Thank you for coming to present for us. We really appreciate that we have some nice vision coming up in future generations, and I love that you've set bullet points to your goals and work towards those. It's really important to keep an eye on those and constantly monitor those. And you're fine young people. I'm proud to say you're in Woodland Park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so again, on behalf of our city council, everyone in this community, certainly everybody in this room tonight, this is the mayor's pin, and it really is a special award for those that do something special for our community. And I don't think there's any question what you all are doing is important, and it seems like you all love what you're doing. And so these folks can't wait to give you a big round of applause. Thanks very much.
Mayor, I'd like,
Sir?
if I could make
Yeah,
a comment. A few people here, maybe Sally and a few others might recall, it's really pleasing to see this group and what they've accomplished, because many, many years ago, I was part of, in our Kiwanis Club, being part of a group called Update, which is Youth Past Drug and Alcohol Task Force, which started the teen center, rehabbed that building where the historical city community is now, and redid that to get it started. And it's really, really rewarding to see what it can evolve to. So, yeah, volunteer, get involved. It really pays off. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. We would all agree with that. And those four in the front row, thank you very much. Great job. Okay, we will move on. No additions, deletions, or corrections tonight. We'll move on to the consent calendar, and Suzanne will wait for a second while the masses leave us. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Levy. This evening on tonight's consent calendar, we have the minutes of the May 4th, 2017 regular city council meeting, and we have the April 2017 statement of expenditures.
Thank you, Suzanne. Council, questions, concerns? If not, we'll just call for a motion.
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Thank
Second.
you. Thank you. Suzanne?
Carr,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Matthews,
Yes.
Soinier,
Yes.
Sawyer,
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Suzanne. Okay, move on. No unfinished business and no ordinances on initial posting. Looks like the next little while will be the Laura Pellegrino show.
Mayor,
Welcome. I'm sorry.
I have to recuse myself.
From A?
Correct.
Okay, would you come back for the others?
No.
We'll find you. We will find you now. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Noel. Good evening, Mayor, members of council, members of the audience, and staff. Today's first case is the Red Baron Car Wash. It is a conditional use permit / site plan review for the ability to allow an automobile wash service use. It's a 4,400 square foot facility that's proposed on this particular site. Tonight is the City Council hearing, May 18, 2017, for this particular development case. First reading was on May 4th for the ordinance. Planning Commission had 2 public hearings because we were trying to work out some issues with CDOT on the Highway 24 improvements. So the first public hearing was March 23rd, the second was April 27th. And on the April 27th public hearing, the Planning Commission did recommend approval with conditions which are reflected in the staff recommendation as well, the same conditions. And the minutes from the Planning Commission, both meetings, were included in your packet. So, there was also a community meeting that the applicant hosted. It was on March 15, 2017. About 3 people, 3 residents in the community came and spoke. It was a very congenial meeting, and they had some pretty good suggestions that the applicant listened to and incorporated into his report and into his proposal. So generally, this is the site location. It's shown here in yellow. This is Highway 24, of course, going through the city, and Highway 67 going north. So you can see that the site is in the central area of downtown Woodland Park, as shown by this yellow. This is a blow-up showing some of the built environment around the particular site, and it shows you that it abuts right on Highway 24, which was one of the reasons this particular applicant wanted to develop this site, was its proximity to the volumes and the traffic on Highway 24. This is a blow-up, an aerial showing the particular site. The site is composed of 3 lots, lots 1, 2, and 3, going from north to south. Each lot is approximately a 1/4 acre in area, and the total site is approximately 3/4 of an acre, 0.78 acres in size. The applicant is proposing in the future to remove or consolidate 1 or 2 lines. At least one of these lot lines, probably the lot line between 1 and 2, will have to disappear because the building is going to be located right over top that lot line. So you'll see some of the recommended conditions were the consolidation of this lot. And that is another forthcoming application not to be addressed by tonight's council. So these 3 lots are on the west side of Highway 24. Here is Highway 24 going north-south in this particular area of the city. Willow Street goes north-south right here and abuts Lot 1 for a very small portion. And then you can see here's Pikes Peak Avenue to the south, and this area here is currently undeveloped, but does exist as a platted right-of-way. And the city has had every intention to develop that as a throughfare. And you can see that Pikes Peak connects on the other side of the highway right here. So the applicant with this proposal, with this development, is looking to develop this entire connection and finish Pikes Peak Avenue. To the north, you can see some of the surrounding uses. To the north is the Dinosaur Resource Center. To the west are residential lots that have been developed and are currently occupied as residential. To the south are more residential and some commercial development along the highway. And then across the other side of the highway, you can see various developments, all commercial, the Pizza Hut, the Loaf and Jug, and other commercial developments on the other side. This gives you also a very rough idea of what the site currently looks like right now. It is vacant, and there are very, very few trees on the site right now. And actually the applicant he has already taken down a few more trees. He also owns this triangular piece right here, which has a single-family residence on it, which is not part of this development site. But we have considered it in terms of the impacts from this particular development. Anyway, this particular site, these 3 lots are fairly vacant, fairly flat. There is a drainage channel from the regional drainage that dumps onto this site from a culvert that comes across the highway, has created this ditch that goes right through it. And the applicant with this development will be correcting and rectifying this particular drainage channel. So he will be fixing this particular site. This map shows the zoning. It's kind of busy, but let me just take you through it. So the site is this red oval right here. It's showing the 3 lots. It's in the pale blue, which is the CBD, Commercial Business District zone, and that is what this site is zoned. The green is the Main Street boundary, so you can see that the site is just outside of the Main Street area. The dashed red lines, that is the boundary for the Downtown Development Authority, so you can see that this site is, in fact, within the Downtown Development Authority. And that was, of course, the reason why Mr. Sawyer, Councilmember Sawyer, had to recuse himself, because this particular applicant has been in front of the Downtown Development Authority asking for some tax increment financing for this particular proposal, and he is in the midst of discussions with the DDA at this time. So you can see that to the immediate west, even though they're residential uses, it is zoned for CBD, commercial business district as well. To the south is again CBD and some residential. And then, of course, on the other side of the highway is more CBD. So this is pretty much the central business district of the city of Woodland Park, and the zoning reflects that. So I'm going to take you through and step you through some of the photographs that I've taken of this particular site. This is from the north end of the site, the north end of Lot 1, looking straight south through the site, and you can see the erosion that the drainage has caused on this particular site. So that is the western boundary on the other side here. There's that single-family residence that currently exists vacant on the triangular portion that this particular applicant also owns. So these are the 3 lots that we're looking over right here. Highway 24, looking south. This is as you walk up along Highway 24, looking into the lot. You don't even see it truly from the sidewalk. You don't see that drainage channel. You just see a vacant piece of grassed land is what you see. And this is looking down the highway. It gives you kind of an idea of some of the infrastructure that's gone in place, some of the city light poles that exist, the sidewalk infrastructure, the splash pad. All of this is, of course, a benefit to the developer, and it already exists. And this is walking down the site, down towards Lot 3, looking back to the north over the site. Here we see the Dinosaur Resource sign, and here we see the actual building for the Dinosaur Resource Center. Again, you see the grassed area, fairly flat slope. So this is walking to the southernmost corner of the site. This is the southernmost corner of the site at the sidewalk, looking at the intersection of Pikes Peak Avenue. It's currently undeveloped and has this barricade right now, but since 1988 this has been, and actually I think 1988 was when we got the access permit for the connection of this particular right-of-way, and it just hasn't been developed. We've been waiting for funding, money, or a developer to come in and do that. So it has sat like this for quite some time. An access permit was granted, but a new one will be necessary for this particular one. CDOT is requiring that the applicant submit for a new access permit for the connection and the full movement intersection with US 24. Anyway, this gives you an idea of what it looks like right now. We've got the sidewalk continuing on through along this western edge of Highway 24. You see some of the ramps that exist and that the applicant will be supplementing. This is the fly shop immediately to the south, so you see some of the commercial type development that already exists. This is standing at that same point, and now we're looking down Pikes Peak Avenue. So you can see that this swath of land right here is all undeveloped, and that is what the applicant will be improving to insert the continuation of Pikes Peak Avenue. Here it is going west, and this intersecting road right here is a local street, Willow Street. So you can see that there is a little bit of grade with this particular development. The applicant has considered much of the construction and the engineering specifications that will be required for this development. This is just taking a few steps into the right-of-way. You see some of the overhead power lines that exist here that were indicated on the site plan in case you were wondering what those look like. Those will remain. The applicant will build around them. This is off of Willow Street looking east now, looking the other direction towards Rampart Range, the highway, and all of the development on the other side of the highway, the Banana Belt Liquor Strip Mall. And so this is, again, the road, Pikes Peak Avenue, will continue on through here. And this is looking at the drainage channel, looking toward the east, and you see the site and how it is slightly elevated compared to some of the land around it. And this is looking north on Willow Street towards the Dinosaur Resource Center. And you can see there's the Dinosaur Resource Center sign right there, and just a very small portion of this lot up here along Willow Street abuts this particular site. This is a site plan. A bigger scale version was included in your packet, but what this does is just shows you the site, which is this rectangular piece of land here. Again, it includes 3 lots. Here is lots 1 and 2, and this is the facility, the 4,400 square foot tunnel car wash right here in red. The site is shown in a blue hatched line, so it gives you an idea. So again, you can see Pikes Peak Avenue intersecting with Willow right here, and the applicant is proposing sidewalk along the north edge of Pikes Peak Avenue to connect with the sidewalk that already exists along Highway 24. The applicant is proposing a right turn lane, a left turn lane onto the highway, and a through street to connect with the other side of Pikes Peak at this point. And also, there's the entrance off of Highway 24, a right turn lane to get into the site. Access through the site is off of Pikes Peak Avenue. You come in this way, you go through the tunnel car wash, or if you decide you change your mind at the last minute, you can exit here. You go through the tunnel car wash, you vacuum your car and clean up in here. The pet wash is approximately in this corner of the building. This portion of the site is currently vacant. The applicant has some ideas and is speculating maybe that it might be a good use for a coffee kiosk, sort of like Dutch Brothers, but that is not part of this particular site plan. At this point, it is just vacant land. Here is that triangular piece, again owned by the applicant, but not part of this development. You can see that here is Willow Street, and the actual boundary for, and this one doesn't show it very clearly, but the boundary for this triangular piece comes to about right here, approximately like something like that. And then this is the portion that abuts Willow Street of this particular lot. The applicant is proposing an easement through his own lot as a secondary ingress and egress for this particular site. These are elevations showing what the building will look like. What you can see is some of the stone wainscoting that completely surrounds the building, some timbers, some pretty substantive column bases, a lot of stucco, very varied roof structures and roof sizes and angles, very what I would consider mining mountain western. So I think the staff was very pleased to see this particular design, and we believe it conforms with our design standards based on this use. Here's just an idea of what the floor plan might look like. This is not the final floor plan, and they haven't submitted yet to the Regional Building Department for a building permit, but this shows you the cars coming in through the tunnel car wash, and then you have some mechanical rooms. You have these two pet stations right here and an office space. So it's a very simple layout. So staff did receive this application, and it is a conditional use permit within this particular zone district. We did a full analysis on this, which included a referral. We referred it out to the various departments within the City of Woodland Park, which includes the Utilities Department, the Public Works, Police Department, Economic Development, Special Projects, and the Building Department. We also sent it out to the Northeast Teller County Fire Protection District, to IREA, Black Hills, TDS Cable, CDOT, and CenturyLink. Everything that is indicated in red indicates a response, a written response that we received from those referral agencies. And the applicant, if any concerns were raised, like concerns from CDOT and concerns from Public Works, the applicant has worked with the particular agency to resolve those issues. Staff also sent out a public notice, various public notices relating to this particular conditional use permit. We did adjacent property owner notices to every property owner within 150 feet of this particular property, of this site. We also posted 3 posters on site, and the posters indicate the date and time of this particular public hearing, and we published a notice of this hearing in the Pikes Peak Courier as well for tonight's meeting. So, to reiterate one more time, this is in the Central Business Zone District, and it is Section 1823 of the City of Woodland Park Municipal Code. Section 1823 states that the CBD Zone District is intended for downtown commercial activity that is accessible by both pedestrian and the motoring public, typically characterized with high densities and lots of design issues that relate to the frontage along the US 24 highway, or even the 67 highway. Parking, landscaping, and mobility are all issues that come into play when dealing with the Central Business District. In the Central Business District, an outright permitted use is the pet grooming shop. So the pet wash was outright permitted. There is no need to deal with that with today's CUP. A conditional use, however, was the car wash use, which is why we are before this council today. Other limitations within the CBD zone district was the height, a maximum height of 35 feet. The applicant is below that height. The setback requirements, it complies. The setback is 10 feet for the front and 0 feet for the rear, and a side setback of 6 feet. Minimum frontage on a public right-of-way is 25 feet. The applicant has ample frontage and complies with that standard. The applicant complies with the parking requirements, and the parking requirements really only deal with the aisle, the lane width, the lane length for cars waiting to get into the car wash. And he has designed his own parking lot, and the amount of parking is sufficient and adequate for his needs. There is no fencing and shrubbery proposed with this particular application. There will be signage, but that will be dealt with as a separate sign permit application. The applicant is complying and will be producing sidewalks. We'll be building that infrastructure as part of this development application, again, along the entire length of the north side of Pikes Peak Avenue will have a sidewalk, and it will connect with the existing highway sidewalk. And the applicant does comply with the minimum 10% landscaping requirement and is proposing an extensive landscaping plan that was included with the packet that you have. So the conditional use standards, we have 11 of them, and staff has reviewed the application and all the submittal items with these 11 standards. There is a need for this use as demonstrated by the applicant. He also owns all of the other car washes in the city. There is no impact or detriment to public health and welfare. We received a letter from a realtor stating that there will probably be an increase in property values based on the quality and design of this particular development, that it harmonizes with the city, with the neighborhood, with the area, with the business district, that it complies with numerous policies, goals, and objectives in the comprehensive plan for the city, that it complies with numerous regulations, including the zoning regulations and other regulations in the city, that there are traffic impacts, but they are mitigated by the construction of Pikes Peak Avenue, that there are drainage impacts, but they are mitigated by the construction of underground drainage systems with this particular application. And again, all of those details were included in the packet that you received. They will be connecting to the city water and sewer and stormwater system, and our utilities director and the utilities department has reviewed the application and has no concerns. Any concerns will be worked out as part of the construction plans as they build their infrastructure. There are no hazards to this site. The applicant, as a matter of fact, will be correcting a drainage issue that exists on this particular site. And staff did review the architectural design and does believe it complies with our design standards and complies with the city's vision of what this building and this site could look like. Site plan review standards are very similar to the conditional use permit standards. I'll just go through them real quick here, and again, it complies with the city plans, complies with the city regulations with respect to grading, erosion, design, parking, tree retention, lighting, layout, architectural standards. Those are the things that we look at when we look at the city regulations. Complies with our traffic standards and will comply with our engineering standards for the construction of Pikes Peak Avenue. There are no issues related to topography or to soils, to drainage, to environmental hazards, or any other features on this particular site. It is a very developable site. That it will connect with water, sewer, wastewater, and that there are no air quality issues related to this particular development. The application was reviewed for fire and safety hazards. The fire department did comment that they recommended disapproval based on the DDA TIF financing, but not on any development standards that exist. There is adequate and available emergency access to the site as designed by the applicant, and there's adequate and available water supply for fire suppression. And staff does believe it is compatible, again, with the neighborhood, with the residents in the area, with the commercial district. So based on that, staff does have a recommendation, and this is the same recommendation that the Planning Commission approved at their April 27th meeting. So staff and Planning Commission recommend approval of the conditional use permit and the site plan review as stated in Ordinance 1306, Series 2017 before you, for the proposed car wash use subject to the following conditions. Signage is by separate sign permit application. Prior to the zoning development permit for construction and/or site improvements, which is the next step in the process if this gets approved tonight. Provide the following information: that is a final construction site plan with legal descriptions and all conditions specified, and any other site plans that are required, which would be utility, grading, landscape, photometric plans, those types of plans. Final approval by CDOT. They will be required to get a CDOT access permit, and that will be required prior to a zoning development permit submittal, or approval, sorry. And then final approval by the Northeast Teller County Fire Protection District for water and emergency services. And then finally, prior to issuance of a zoning development permit, we require that they pay all of the impact fees, which the applicant has agreed to. Then condition number 3, prior to a certificate of occupancy for any building that is constructed, we have to have a consolidation of the lots either from 3 lots into 2 lots or into 1 lot. And then they, with that consolidation, have to establish any necessary easements for drainage, public utilities, and or for ingress and egress with that. So the applicant is here tonight. Mr. Dan Taylor is the applicant from the Taylor Mountain Enterprises LLC, and also his contractor, Joe from Hammers Construction, is here. And if there are any questions, they are available to come up and answer them. So I don't know if you want to have them come up right away or if you have questions for me.
Well, let's start with you. I got one quick one. I think I know the answer. This is a stop sign at the corner, right, of Pikes Peak and Highway 24. That's not a signal light.
Of Highway, it'll be a stop sign, yes.
Thank
and
you.
there'll also, okay.
That's the end of my question. That's a good, try to make it easy. I thought that was the case. Counsel, before we bring up Dan and Joe Butler.
Just remind me, please, which is the rear on that diagram I was...
Let me pull it up. All right. So typically we call the front from the address. This will have an address off of Highway 24. So it's possible that this is the front, but typically we call this the front, and that's what they've shown on their site plan, because this is truly where they're accessing into the particular site. So this is the front 10 feet, rear is 0, and the sides are 6.
Thank you.
Laura, where would you like to see that signage?
For the car wash or for the stop sign?
For the car wash.
The car wash. The applicant, when he comes up, he can tell you what he's thinking. He is looking at some signage along Highway 24. So, the stop sign, just so you know, there will be the stop sign here, but we're also looking at the potential for a stop sign with the intersection at Willow Street.
Let's bring Mr. Taylor and Mr. Butler up. Oh, I'm sorry, someone else? Sorry, John.
It's okay, I was gonna ask, why wouldn't it be considered as one lot, all 3 lots, seeing as how they're using it all, unless you're thinking of something for the residents that's there?
It is
Some
3
sort
lots
of
currently, and typically we don't allow for a building, like this red outline shows the building. We don't allow for a building to be located on a lot line, simply because there are setbacks. So in this case, he's going to have to consolidate these lots, and he's known this from day one when he bought all 4 lots. So he's looking at a lot line vacation to remove the lot line between lots 1 and 2 so that this building and this portion of the development is within its own lot. And then the coffee shop or whatever ends up going on this lot will have its own lot as well.
And where does the residence fall in?
The residence is right here, and it is not part of this development.
Okay, that's good, thank you.
John?
My question's been answered.
Oh, good, thank you. Dan, welcome. If you would give us name and address.
Dan Taylor, 545 Creekside Drive, Woodland Park.
Let Joe do the same, and then we'll move on.
Joe Butler, 708 Fullview Avenue.
Carol, you want to start?
I have a question really for Aaron, and then I'll direct it to the applicants. Is it permissible for us to ask if the potential for a TIF arrangement with DBA may impact this project?
That's something that you can ask. That would not have any bearing on any of the criteria, however, I don't believe. So.
But I could ask that question. Then I will ask the question. The question is, if you're not able to reach agreement with the DDA board on a TIF incentive of some type, would that impact the project?
Absolutely. You know, this, the possibility of a TIF agreement with the DDA was, I reviewed that extensively before even buying the property, and that was really one of the things that has to happen for this development to happen. And in this particular case, because the city is requiring the street to be built and the drainage to be fixed, and what was the other thing? The sidewalks, the drainage, those are the two big ones. But we also plan to put some power lines underground, and we need to extend the sewer main over also. But the big thing was having to do the street and fix the drainage. And because of that expense, and that's really why this property has sat here for so long undeveloped, was because of these rather large hurdles to get over. And does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Plus, you'll be developing the continuation out to Highway 24.
Yes, and that was a requirement of the city in order to develop, yes.
Absolutely.
It's not a something that's can or can't be done. Is not my choice.
Dan, give us a sense of what that cost is. What cost will you incur by fixing the drainage, bringing the street to Highway 24, like you said, and the sidewalk? You have a sense? I'm sure you do. What's that going to cost you?
Joe's estimate so far is around $300,000.
$300,000. And can I ask you what your total investment looks like?
1.9 million.
That's including the 300,000.
Yes. So you see how much of the development just doing those things is.
Yeah, I'll ask Sally. Has that been an issue with that piece of property before?
It has sat vacant for many years. There was a proposal for a Taco Bell many years ago, and they ended up moving to their current site.
It's one of the, I mean, it's right there, open property, not many left, right, in our community? Not many left.
Right. The Sonic, when they were first looking for property, they looked at this site as well, but it had an unusual deed restriction on it that you couldn't sell hamburgers off that site, but that has since expired, and that was put in place when McDonald's came into town. Oh my goodness. So these properties have unique histories.
Well, that keeps Dan out of the restaurant business too. So.
Well, no, it's expired though.
It's expired.
Oh, it is expired. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add a couple of things very quickly because there's some discussion about the transportation and the drainage associated with this property. It's not unusual to require developers to make those improvements, but for their improvement or the desire to develop that property, those improvements would not be required. One of the things, though, that we've done in the past with other projects, and we are going to do for this project, should it be approved and should it go through, is that we will allow the dedication of his transportation capital fees and his drainage capital fees to be used towards the Pikes Peak construction, because the intent of the transportation capital fees was to be put forth for regional or system improvements. This clearly is that. The same is true for drainage. So the drainage impact fee, he would be able to use that money to make the improvements on that drainage way, because it too is part of a regional drainage system. Some of the drainage comes paralleling Highway 24, and some of it sounds like comes under Highway 24. I'm very familiar with what's parallel to Highway 24 from the Dinosaur Resource Center and its detention facilities. So the entire burden is being relieved somewhat by him being able to use the impact fees that he would be required to pay.
Yeah, and plus this is an ideal situation for the DDA.
That's very true.
You're gonna help us. We're gonna help you. I mean, this is perfect, and I know that there's been long discussions, and I'm guessing you're happy with the way things are moving in that regard. I know it
Yes,
hasn't been approved
absolutely.
yet, but
Yes.
good. Well, good for you.
May I ask what the value of those impact fees are?
I don't have those numbers. I don't know that they've been calculated yet. We may have some estimates.
It depends on, so what we did was, with the traffic study, is we went ahead and included the possibility of a coffee kiosk there, because the traffic impacts fees are based on how many cars you expect to be coming through there every day. And so I think with the coffee, it turned out to be 440 trips, was that right? Times $80. That's what the traffic fee was, and the sewer fee,
It's about 18,000. I did find it in the report for the stormwater.
Stormwater, 18,000.
Yep.
Question.
Go ahead, John.
Do you have a date by which you must have a TIF agreement, or you decide to do something else with your money?
A date, can you be more specific of what you're looking for? Like,
Well, do you have the finances to continue to wait to get a TIF agreement, or you might decide to do something else with your money?
well, I can say that the DDA has supplied a letter of intent to enter into an agreement. And so we're at that point with the DDA. And we're at a fairly high level of agreement on what that TIF agreement might be. So as far as the DDA is concerned, we are looking pretty good. Just need to iron out a few things. But again, we fall back on financing for the project as well. So a timeline, I don't think it really falls back on the DDA at all at this point.
All right. Thank you.
I have a question that I'd like to ask of Tanner Coy, if that's possible. Or should we wait until we're through?
I think it would be best if you work through the criteria and the conditional use review and then approve it up or down based on the staff report. And then I think that question would be best afterward if you're fine with it. Councilman, thank you.
I think I might add a few things from my business standpoint. First of all, this type of car wash is something that's would be a new service in town. I think it's something that would be needed and used quite a bit. And the location of it, this particular site, is very, very unique because, and a good one for this type of car wash, because it really, really needs to be on the highway where the traffic is. That's locating a car wash is the #1 factor people look at. In some of the bigger cities, people will pay $50,000, $100,000 just to find the right location to hire a firm to do that for them. So this is a very, very good location. The shape and size of the property lend itself quite well, being long and narrow. And if you look through the whole city, where the traffic is moving at about 35 miles an hour, which is what we want, there's very, very few, if any, other pieces of property that even have the size to accommodate this. And besides that, power, it needs a significant amount of power, electricity I'm talking about. And the site happens to have right along Pikes Peak Avenue there all the power we need. So running power any distance is extremely expensive.
Dan, let me play devil's advocate for a minute to what you just said. And you're a smart guy. You've done a great job with your car washes in town. We had another $2 million car wash on the highway in Woodland Park. Help me.
Well, first it wasn't on the highway.
Okay.
Right, and that makes a big difference. You would be amazed. secondly, that was a different business model. It was a full-service business model. And third, this was, how many years ago was that built? 13 years ago, maybe? And they spent, as far as I know, $2.5 million maybe doing that. And they you know, that was, I wasn't privy to the whole business model. I wasn't even here when that happened. So, but what I know of it is just that it's a different business model that really didn't fit the area as well. The industry itself has matured significantly since that time. At that time, the full service model, I think because of the state of the economy at the time and the lax lending practices that were going on, people were jumping into those types of things left and right, thinking that it was going to be the next best thing. You know, it turns out they're not very efficient, especially in a small town. Just can't support that type of a business model.
And loosely tied to the criteria, but how many folks do you think you'll employ here?
You know, at full employment, we'll probably have 6.
You're not going to be having anyone drying cars off at the end of the tunnel.
No, labor is very, very expensive. So, you know, that's a consequence of the size of our town, really, and the business that's available. I just can't afford to have somebody standing there with a towel and on a snowy day when there's 2 cars that come through.
Will you be reclaiming any of the chemicals that you'll be using?
Not the chemicals, but they do get reused somewhat, because about 75% of the water gets recycled and reused in some of the first stages of the car wash, where you know, the later rinsing stages is where you need to use the fresh water to make sure the car is clean. But it's interesting that some of the soaps that are in that water get used over and over again then for washing.
That's a great comment, to save 75, to recycle 75% of the water is,
Absolutely. That's becoming an industry's norm, but you know, the price of our water compared to nationwide, I'm sure Kip might be able to comment on that, but it's expensive here.
Just the way we like it.
And no blame at all.
We are in public comment. If anyone here, there's nobody signed up, if anybody would like to comment. Okay, council. Oh, I'm sorry, Tanner.
Tanner Coy, 240 East Highway 24. Well, to start, I'd just like to speak in favor of the project. I think Dan's a very intelligent businessman, from what I can tell, and an experienced one, has done a lot of research and put together a great project for a very challenging property. So just wanted to share those words of support for the project. Are there any questions I can answer?
Since my question was not related, I'll hold it till later.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Council, anything else?
Seems like he's going to be running the other car washes out of business.
Those are his.
I know.
That's a great kind of comment question. What do you think the impact of yours is going to be on your others?
You know what? We are estimating that it might be 25%, but it could be more and it could be less. It's very, very difficult to say.
It's a totally different kind of customer, isn't it?
It is. You know, and I've actually noticed, and I want to attribute this maybe to the Karis College, because of the diversity of people that are coming up here now. I'm seeing in the last year or two a lot of people that come here that have never even used a self-service car wash. And I have to, you know, give them a little training session on how to actually use the one and what to pick. And so, you know, and then there's a whole group of people that just plain don't wash their car up here at all. They go down to Speedy Shine on the 8th Street. So.
Great, thanks. Anything else, Council? Joe, is there anything you'd like to add that would be helpful?
No, this is about 12 years after I designed and built the Dinosaur Resource Center, so I'm anxious to get on this one too. So.
Okay, well, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. I can say one more comment, though, I
Please.
wanted to say about, since we were talking about the DDA and how important that was in this project. There's another thing that's come up in the financing process of this, and that is since the 2008 crisis, financing development costs, which is what the street and the drainage is, that's what the lenders look at that as, is development costs. That's they view that as much more risky, and it's difficult. Makes it much more difficult for me when I have to, versus buying a site that's already prepared, a pad, so to speak, with all the work done. It makes it much more difficult for me to get financing.
More investment, more risk.
Yeah, but from the bank's perspective, and even the SBA, believe it or not, it's just has made it more difficult.
Well, thanks very much, Dan. Sounds like a great project. Council, if we have any other questions? If not, we'll call for a motion.
I'd move approval of ordinance 1306 as presented.
Thank you. Did I hear a second?
Yes, second.
Suzanne?
Thank you. Harvey?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Matthews?
Yes.
Sawyer? Excuse me. Soinier?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes, I thought we were going to have some more discussion. I just for the record, that's all right. I really would like us to work to help Netco and their concerns in when we do these things. My vote was yes, by the way, if you didn't hear. But I really would like to the city, DDA, all of us to try to figure out a way to help them out. It's really a strenuous problem for them. Thank you.
I believe it was 6-0.
Thank you. I believe it. You're right. Okay. Thank you very much, Dan. Congratulations. Good luck to you. Do we have to vote to let Noel back in the meeting?
Sorry, you missed it.
Okay, Laura, let's move forward.
Thank you, Mayor Levy. This item 8B is a request by Holly Morrell, who is the event coordinator for Movies Above the Clouds. And it is a request to council to show movies after 9 p.m. at the Midland Pavilion on 3 dates, June 9th, July 14th, and August 11th, as part of the Movies Above the Clouds temporary or special event temporary use permit. So again, this is just a general site layout. Here's the UPass Cultural Center, here's the stage, here's the library, and this is where they do the movies from the stage. This is the 4th year that they've done movies. They've never actually received any registered complaints. The movies typically start at sundown and are over, by an hour and a half. The stipulation in the staff report is that there is a condition that says that they have to shut off sound systems and light systems by 10:15, and that cleanup should be completed by 10:30, and the applicant agrees with that. So this is a temporary use permit for a special event, and it is before council simply because it is an event that is occurring after 9 p.m.
Do you have any questions, Ken?
Aren't these the same conditions that we've approved in previous years?
If not identical, very similar, yes. And Mayor Levy, just wanted to let you know that Nicole Randolph is here and is representing Holly Morrell and the Movies Above the Clouds. If you have any questions about the event, you can certainly bring her up and quiz her.
That'd be great. Nicole, why don't you come up, tell us a little bit about what you're doing. I know it's got great response in the past, am I right?
Yes, it has. Nicole Randolph, 1211 Mountain Meadows Drive.
What time were you starting?
It changes since
Based on sundown?
sundown. So it varies in between 8 to 8:30.
And no issues with being done by 10:15 or so?
No, it should. I looked at all the movie times. Our longest movie is an hour and 30 minutes, and it'll be done by 10.
We've had no issues with this. Council, any questions?
Public comment, anybody?
Got some good movies?
Star Wars, Rogue One,
Oh, wow.
and then the other two are animations.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
Very much. Council, I'll entertain a motion if there's no other questions.
I make a motion that we move to accept the
Second.
Thank you. Suzanne?
Levy?
Yes.
Matthews?
Yes.
Sonier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Laura, you're on number 3.
Yes, this is item 8C, and it is for the Historic Ute Inn Street Dances Temporary Use Permit Special Event Application. It is a request by Elijah Murphy, the event organizer, who is also here in the audience tonight. It is to allow for street dances to occur after 9 p.m. on a part of the parking lot behind the Historic Ute Inn. It is part of the parking lot and is part of the Historic Ute Inn property, but this parking lot is a parking lot that is subject to an easement with the city, and it allows for public parking. So that is one of the reasons why we ask that the applicant consider some of the surrounding businesses with this particular event. And the applicant did submit a petition signed by the adjacent business owners saying that they have no objection. The dances will occur on June 17th, July 7th and 8th, and August 19th. And just a note that the July 8th event was added, so your packet did not include that, but the recommendation today is for July 7th and 8th. And that doesn't change staff's recommendation. We still recommend approval. And again, this is part of the special event temporary use permit that has been submitted for these street dances. So this is just a general location showing you the location of the Historic Ute Inn, which is this building right here. These lots are long and narrow, and the portion here that's used as a parking lot by many of the businesses in this area is what the applicant is proposing to block off, and there will be porta-johns and a stage and entertainment and dancing and fun to be held by all. That concludes my presentation. Mr. Murphy is here in the audience if you want to call him up.
Please, Mr. Murphy.
I have a question for Laura, though, before
Let's do that
Murphy
first.
starts. Does this permit request include sale or of alcohol?
It does, and Mr. Murphy does have a liquor license.
Elijah, before you start, let me ask the chief. You struggle with parking as it is. We use all that parking space. Do you see any issues?
He held this event last year, Mayor, and we had 0 issues with his event.
That's a great history, isn't it? Elijah? What do you got for us?
Elijah Murphy, 204 West Midland Avenue, Woodland Park, Colorado. I have a lot of fun for you if you want to come to the parking lot dance. We're going to, the first one is for Father's Day. We had such great success last year that we decided people were bugging me to do more parking lot dances. And while they're a lot of work, they're a lot of fun for the community. So the first one we decided to set up was for Father's Day. That'll be a second, kind of a test run for everything that I've got, because we're bringing in the porta-johns and additional help. That'll be a test run for the rodeo dances, which will be the July 7th and 8th. Those will be used to raise funds for the rodeo and help pay for it. And then lastly is the Saturday, August 19th, I believe, is during the motorcycle rally. Just to try and capture some of that business that would probably be rolling back down the hill. The event last year we went from 6 to 10, and everything was torn down, rolled up by 11 p.m.
You anticipate the same thing this year?
Unfortunately.
6 to
I
10?
mean, yes, sir. I'd like to make it an all-nighter, but
I'm sure a lot of people would too.
yes, sir.
Council? It worked last year. Any of the council members there last year, Elijah?
Yeah,
I don't.
I was there.
Oh, that's right, Paul.
Were you dancing?
Oh, sure. Oh, I was just getting down. It was something else. You should have seen me.
Public comment, anybody like to comment on Elijah's proposition?
Just one other item, because it is an area leased to the city with the conditional use, the temporary liquor license addition has been put in through the city clerk, and I also, upon approval, I will get I've already got the insurance arranged, naming the city of Woodland Park as the payee, I guess, or additional insured. There you go.
Well, thanks for doing it again. It's a great event last year. I'm sure it's just going to grow, and people had a great time, so good luck. I know it's a lot of work, but a lot of fun, too. Right?
It is. It is.
Council, what else before we move for a motion? Val, did I forget anything?
No, I'm sorry.
No.
Interrupt you
I'm
last
just
time.
kidding. All right, call for a motion. I'm sorry. I asked once, but if there's anybody else. Okay. We're good to go for a motion to
I
approve.
move approval of special event permit number 17040-103 as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you. Matthews?
Yes.
Soinier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. Laura, thank you, Elijah.
Thank you all very much.
Let me know if there's anything we can do to help.
Bring money.
Laura, 3 down, 1 to go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an application for Foster's Edition filing number 2. It is a subdivision application before council tonight. It is an application for a final plat. Subdivision application number 17001. A minor subdivision of 0.343 acres, or 2 lots, lots 1R and 2R of Foster's Edition filing number 1, into 3 lots, lots 1 to 3, Foster's Edition filing number 2. So we're going from 2 lots to 3 lots. We're creating 1 lot from the site. It is in the Community Commercial CC Zone District, and the request is submitted by Waters Construction Company, Inc., which is Dean Waters, and Dean Waters is in the audience tonight and is available for questions at the discretion of council. He is the property owner as well as the applicant. So on May 11th, 2017, this did go to the City Planning Commission, and they did have a public hearing, and nobody was at the public hearing. And it was recommended for approval by council, or by the Planning Commission. Those minutes were included in your packet. Today is May 18, 2017. Today is the City Council public hearing on this particular subdivision application. This is a general site map showing you again the location of this particular site. It is again in the downtown central area of Woodland Park. You can see that this one is on the east side of the highway, but still very central to Woodland Park. Here's Highway 24 and 67. This is an aerial map showing you the site in yellow. These are the 2 lots. The northernmost lot is lot 1R. The southern lot is lot 2R. And this is the configuration that these 2 lots exist in right now. You can see to the north is the Forest Service office and undeveloped Grace Avenue. This is an existing and platted right-of-way, but currently undeveloped and not proposed to be developed with this particular application at this time. Access to these 2 lots will be off of Boundary Street, which is immediately abutting to the west. Jimmy John's is across the boundary, and then to the south are the other 2 lots in the existing first filing of this subdivision, and these are currently developed with 2 single-family residences, 1 on each lot, currently built and occupied right now. So that gives you a general idea of what the site looks like as well. It has been used and traversed numerous times, although it's not quite as bad as it looks in this particular photograph. It is a fairly flat and highly developable site. This is a blow-up of our zoning map. It shows you this site in this black oval. These are the 2 lots proposed to be developed into 3. And we can see that it is the CC zone district. That is this pink strip that goes along this side. You can see that it abuts the central business district, the CBD, to the west. The green line, again, is the Main Street boundary, so it is outside of the Main Street area. The red dashed lines are the boundaries of the Downtown Development Authority. It is within the Downtown Development Authority boundary. However, this applicant is not pursuing any kind of a TIF, at least not yet. And I don't think he has any intention to. This gives you a street view of the site. So the southernmost boundary is approximately cutting across here, and we're looking into the site from boundary. You can see that there is some vegetation along boundary, which may or may not change depending on where the single-family residences are sited on this lot when he comes to that particular point. At this point, we're only looking at a subdivision application. This is another aerial, a little bit of an oblique, looking at the particular site. What this one does show is the electric power line along the boundary. It also shows the path and Grace Avenue that's currently undeveloped. It shows some infrastructure that's been built, sidewalks along the Forest Service site, for instance, and along the CERC physical therapy site, for instance, and even along the Jimmy John's site. Along this particular boundary here, on the east edge of boundary, is an open ditch, which is perfectly fine and suitable at this particular time. And there is no requirement for sidewalks with a residential development. So you'll be seeing no sidewalks being developed with this particular site. So this shows you the, again, an oblique angle, some of the existing infrastructure that exists. This driveway through Grace to access the K&K Timber, I think it's K&K Timber or Lumber? Tree Service, K&K Tree Service. He does also have access off of the Baldwin side of his property. So this is the plat, portions of the plat. This is showing the original as-platted configuration of the 4 lots. This was platted in 2015. You can see lots 1R and 2R are the sites that we're looking at today. And he's taken those 2 lots and produced 3 lots, each one approximately 5,000 square feet in size each, roughly. So again, staff received this application and did a thorough and complete review and code compliance analysis. We did referrals out to the Public Works Department, the Utilities Department, Parks and Rec, Finance departments within the city. Also sent it out to external agencies like IREA, Northeast Teller County Fire Protection District, Black Hills Energy, CenturyLink, TDS Cable. Really no concerns expressed by anyone. This is a viable subdivision application. One comment that we did receive from the Utilities Department was the concern that we have a finite, limited resource in terms of water, and creating any new lots puts a strain on our maximum amount of water. We do have water available and adequate right now to serve this 1 lot proposed subdivision, but the Utilities Department's concern is that we will run out of water at some time in the future, and that should be something to think about. We also sent out public notices with respect to this application to every property owner within 150 feet. We put a legal notice of tonight's hearing in the Pikes Peak Courier, and the property has been posted with signs so that anybody driving by would see. So staff did a compliance with all the code sections that are applicable, and that is the final plat standards of section 1724 and the design standards of section 1740 in the subdivision regulations. So a lot of section 1724-80 is for information. It is what the applicant has to produce and what a surveyor has to produce in order to record a plat. So that was all reviewed by staff and does comply with all of our requirements. There were some minor changes that we are making as a recommendation to this particular subdivision application, and that is that he just fix some of the language and add some affidavit signature execution blocks that were omitted. The purpose, again, subdivision regulations exist to subdivide land, and we expect a well-designed proposal. This staff does believe is a well-designed one-lot subdivision of 0.343 acres or 14,940 square feet of land, and the subdivision does have adequate access, services, and park fees are proposed and will be submitted by the applicant for this. There is no land dedication that he will be submitting with this particular application. Staff also looks at specific site considerations. We look whether or not to see whether this site is suitable for development. We did find that it has adequate services adjacent to it, and that specific items related to grading, erosion, drainage, and utility connection will all be addressed as part of a zoning development permit when the single-family residences are built. But that all of those issues, if any exist, can be feasibly mitigated with future development. The minimum requirement for frontage, we do believe that there's adequate frontage for ingress and egress to each site off of boundary, and that there are adequate easements for all services, public and power, and that all lots are buildable lots, and that there is adequate provision, even though these are smaller size lots, there is adequate provision for an adequate building envelope. It is highly developable. So the Planning Commission reviewed this at their meeting, and staff's recommendation was approved by the Planning Commission and is put forth as a joint recommendation for Council's consideration. And the recommendation is that Council approve Foster's Edition Filing Number 2 as submitted, subject to the following conditions. There are 5. The first 4 are inclusion of plat notes. The first plat note we want to see included is that where there are new, expanding, or remodeled commercial or multifamily development, that is when sidewalks, curb and gutter along the property boundaries and adjacent public streets be developed. So that's when a sidewalk would go in along boundary, for instance, if this were to be developed or used as commercial in the future. And so this plat note on the plat is an effective disclosure statement for any potential future landowners. Another plat note where new, expanding, or remodeled development is proposed that will access off of Grace Street. That is when we will require the development of Grace Street. And again, this plat note, it acts as a disclosure on the plat for future landowners. The next plat note is that maximum site coverage pursuant to the municipal code must be adhered to, and we will be reviewing that when the application comes in for a building permit for the residences. And finally, we wanted to add a plat note that all trees within the Grace Avenue right-of-way be preserved and protected to the extent possible until such time as Grace Avenue is developed in the future. And finally, for the witness block, we just wanted to add a note that in the dedication statement that there be a witness block. It seems to have been omitted, so that's a fairly minor detail. So staff does recommend approval with the inclusion of these 4 plat notes and that witness block. Mr. Dean Waters is here in the audience and is available for questions. Are there any questions of me?
Question. John, what are the setbacks on the lots?
In the CC zone district, and this was in the staff report, let me just find it. So maximum height in the CC zone district is 35 feet, front and rear setbacks are 25 feet, and side setbacks are 8 feet.
Thank you.
Excuse me, everybody, we're going to take about a 10-minute break. Okay, let's reconvene at 11:45. Thank you. Sorry, Laura.